What kind of path are you on? In today's video, we're going to be discussing what path are you on. And in today's times when not all, but a big majority of people are on paths that are not necessarily beneficial towards their state of being, paths that are distracting from their state of well-being, paths that aren't necessarily right for these people, and you got to ask yourself at some point, what kind of path am I on? When it comes to mentally, what kind of path are you on? What kind of path are you on mentally? Are you on a path of growing when it comes to mentally? Are you on a path of mentally expanding and mentally becoming wiser, mentally becoming more knowledgeable, mentally becoming smarter? Are you mentally on a path of making sure your mental health and your mental state of being is in check? Are you on a mental path of taking care of your mental state of being? Or are you on a mental path of one that is most beneficial towards your mental state of being and your state of well-being when it comes to mentally? With all these sorts of mental health crisis and whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, what's really happening is people aren't necessarily on the right path when it comes to mentally. You could be on a path of being mentally stuck. You could be on a path of being mentally stagnant, being on a path of mentally destructive, being on a path of thinking that you're in the right state of mind mentally, when really you're in a toxic mentality, or a mentality that feeds your sort of toxic ego, or you are mentally on a path that you think is mentally enough for you, or you'll be able to settle for this when it comes to the path you're on when it comes to mentally. When in regards to that, you're really not doing anything. You're not doing anything to help yourself when it comes to mentally. So you're gonna be subject to, let's say, thinking you're on the right path when it comes to mentally, but as soon as you get a reality check of where you actually are, what actual path you're on when it comes to mentally, you're gonna be absolutely astonished as far as seeing that you're not even on the right path. You think you're on the right path when it comes to mentally, just because you could be experiencing being on a path that is not right for you, being on a path that is destructive, even though you view it as, oh, I think this is right for me. I think that, because you're not on a path of growing when it comes to mentally. So you think things that aren't really true. You think things that are illogical. You think things that aren't necessarily the reality of a situation, because you're not even on a right path. You're not even on that path of mentally growing. You're on a path of mentally degrading, on a path of mentally being in a destructive pattern of behavior that is having an effect on your mental state of being that is not positive and or beneficial to your state of being. So you could be on a path mentally that is absolutely destructive. You could be on a path mentally that is illogical, one that is extremely delusional. Therefore, you perceive that you're on the right path in your life, but when truth is shown, you really aren't. You're really just delusionally perceiving it to be as if you're on a right path when it comes to mentally. So ask yourself, am I on the right path? You'll know if you're on the right path or not if you are able to connect with your mental state of being and able to think in truth rather than thinking, ooh, I'm just thinking because it validates my emotional state of being, or I'm just thinking this way because it validates my spiritual sense of being. I'm just thinking this way because it validates my physical actions that I do, even if those actions aren't right for you, even if those emotions are, let's say, selfish or toxic towards validating anything that you have going on that isn't in your best interest. That could be thinking a certain way in regards to, I don't have to value my spirituality. At the end of the day, you think that you're on that path where spirituality or taking care of your states of being or making sure you're on the right path doesn't matter, because you've put yourself in that space. You've adopted those spirits. You've adopted that system and that perspective to view it as, oh, these things don't matter. I can be on whatever path I want to, and even if that's a path that is destructive for my mental state of being, even that's a path that's destructive for my physical, emotional, and or spiritual state of being. So ask yourself, what path am I on, right? What path am I going down? What path should I be going down? Is this the right path? When it comes to physically, what path are you on? Are you on a path that is right for you to move into that space? Are you on a path that is moving you into the right direction in your life? Because I'm telling you now that I once experienced not being on the right path. Mentally, not just mentally, but physically, like we're talking about now. I've experienced not being on the necessarily right path when it comes to physically, or doing the right actions that are beneficial to my state of physical well-being. And that's no path for anyone to live. Of course, you might think that that is right because you are in some sort of delusion, or you're in some sort of, physical space or state that you just can't see things for what they are. And physically, you got to check yourself and be like, are these actions right for me? Are these actions in the path that I'm following down when it comes to physically? Is this taking me to the space that I need to be in? Or are these actions taking me further away from the space that I need to be in? Or are these actions taking me more and more into a space that is worse for my states of being? A state that is worse for me to exist in? Are my physical actions adding up as far as benefiting me mentally? Are my physical actions adding up as far as benefiting me emotionally? Are my physical actions adding up as far as benefiting me when it comes to spiritually? So look at your actions. Don't be just delusional and thinking that you're some sort of zombie, or that you're not supposed to be accountable for your actions or anything like that, or as if the mental realm isn't aware of your so-called right actions that you think are right for you, or that the world isn't physically aware of the actions that you take into the physical world, and the way that you interact with the physical world. That's being seen. Or acting like your actions, the way that you interact with the world, is not being perceived, or people, places, or things, or the universe is not having its own reaction, or giving you back that emotional energy that you're putting out of not caring if you're on the right path or not, or just doing things in a destructive manner just because that's all you know. That's the way for you to bypass even being aware, bypass even being in tune with your physical state of being, in tune with being on that right path when it comes to physically. The spiritual world is seeing, and spirits are seeing what you are, how you are, who you are, why you are doing the things that you're doing, and seeing what path that you are on. And if you're not on a right path, then you're not going to be given strength, you're not going to be given power. No one's going to look at you as being mentally fit, physically fit, emotionally fit, or spiritually fit, because at the end of the day, you're not even traveling in the right path. You're traveling in a path that is further and further away from being aware, in a path that is closer and bringing you closer and closer to your own demise, whether that be mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. And I think that a lot of people just aren't necessarily aware of how their actions are going to, let's say, affect the path that they're on, or how the path that they're on is going to affect their state of being, or how that path that they're on is going to affect their actions from this point on. People can't grasp that because their awareness is little to none, and they're so based in things that are mentally, that they're used to, things that they are physically used to, things that they're emotionally used to, things that they think they're spiritual, or they're used to acting in this sort of way and calling that spirituality, yet they really don't know the truth of anything. There really are illogical people that are in delusions of their own grandeur, and that means that they think that they're all that. And so they can't see anything or be aware of anything beyond thinking that they're mentally, they're all this, they're all that. Their thoughts and the way that they think and their mental state of being is top of the top, when at the end of the day, you got to look at these people's certain mind states and break it down and see, okay, what kind of path is this person on? And being able to realize that this person isn't on a path of shit. This person is on a path that is delusionally perceived, and they think that they're on the right path when it comes to mentally. But when you can see through that, when you're aware and you can be able to see through that, you can tell, okay, this person's on a distracted path when it comes to mentally. This person is mentally in a path that is just opposite what they need to be in order to benefit their mental state of being. When you see people's physical actions, the way they interact with the world, you can see, okay, this person is definitely not on the right path. They're focused on things that are having them distracted from their state of well-being when it comes to physically. You can see by the way people act, by the way people react to things, the way that people perceive or take in through their emotional state of being, okay, is this person on a right state of being, or are they on a toxic state of being, which is toxic to not only their self, but toxic to the person, places, and things around them, because they're not aware of how they have an interaction or how they have an effect, because their emotional awareness is little to none. They don't have any awareness as far as outside of what they know, outside of what they're used to. Being able to perceive, okay, what kind of fruits of these people, what are the fruits of these people's labor? Meaning, what is the spirit bringing into mentally? What is the spirit bringing into the physical world? What is the spirit bringing into the emotional world? And judging based on that pure fact of, okay, what are the fruits of these people's labor? And seeing that it's little to nothing, and nothing that is of matter, but just things that are on the path of being mentally lost, on the path of being physically lost, on the path of being emotionally lost, on the path of being spiritually lost, and being able to see that and realize that you can see, okay, these people aren't on the right path. And therefore, when you see others constantly doing things that aren't on the right path, all that it's going to do is mentally remind you of, okay, this is what I think, and I know for a fact, based upon what I'm seeing, is I know that I can be on a better path, and I know if I am on the right path or not for myself. Based upon seeing other people's way that they interact with the world, what are their actions showing? Then you can tell, am I on the right path or not? And don't just think, oh, because someone else is doing an action, or someone else is thinking a certain way, or feeling a certain way, or practicing a certain spiritual system, that is right for you. It's just to see and confirm that you are correctly in the right path, or on the right path. Seeing how people are, like I said, all of that stuff is going to key you into realizing that you're on the right path, realizing that by the fruits of your own labor, what path you are on, and if that's the correct path for you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. When it comes to, are you on the right path emotionally? Are you doing actions? Are you thinking? And are you practicing spiritual virtues and spiritual morals and beliefs or faith in yourself that is putting you on the right path? Or are these things and are the emotions that you're experiencing, are those confirming that you're on the right path, or are they necessarily showing and denying that you're not on the right path? This could be, oh, I feel like I'm jealous, or I feel like I'm toxic, or any of that demonic emotions that you may feel can tell you, or that you can sense that other people are feeling, can tell you, hey, this person's not on the right path whatsoever. This person's so far away from the right path that they actually have to externalize or internalize the hate, the jealousy, the envy that they have for others just through their actions when it comes to physically, through their mental thought process that you can see, through their spiritual system or their spiritual perspective that they think and that they deem to be superior, or that they deem to be even righteous in general. So you can see that, okay, this person's in a toxic emotional state. This person's on a toxic path when it comes emotionally. And you should be on the path that is most right for you when it comes emotionally. A path that is most right for you to keep growing emotionally. A path that is most right for you to be emotionally mature. A path that is most right for you to be emotionally expanding. A path that is right for you to be emotionally stable. A path that is right for you to be emotionally strong. A path that is right for you to be emotionally supportive of others, not emotionally draining and or demeaning of other people's states of being. Therefore, if you're on the right path when it comes emotionally, you will exist in a state of emotional fulfillment rather than a space of emotional lacking or a space where you have to do things in order to feel a certain way rather than just being that way when it comes to emotionally and being on that right path when it comes to emotionally. Are you on the right path when it comes to spiritually? You got to ask, am I on the right path when it comes to spiritually? Am I spiritually fulfilling the right purpose? Am I spiritually on the right path? Am I spiritually doing the right things? Am I spiritually in this life creating what I need to create? Am I spiritually in a space, in a state that is right for me? Or am I spiritually in a state or space that is completely removed from where I need to be, completely removed for where I need to be? You could perceive that, okay, I'm mentally in this thought process, or I'm having these mental thought forms of being in this certain path, whatever it happens to be when it comes to mentally. But then when you reference what's actually happening when it comes to spiritually, you could just be thinking that you're on the right path when it comes to mentally, when at the end of the day, you're spiritually degrading yourself. You're spiritually degrading your spirit just because of the way that you're thinking or the mental path that you're on. You could be thinking you're interacting with the world physically in the right way, or your actions are putting you onto the right path or not. But when you check and you get that spiritual perspective on it, you realize that, damn, these actions that I was taking were actually degrading my physical experience, degrading my physical state of being. You could be thinking, oh, my emotional state of being is great right now. I feel like I'm better than everyone else, or whatever that may be, if that's emotions that you're experiencing that are not having you on that right path when it comes emotionally. And when you gain that spiritual perspective of, damn, that was not even the right way to react to that situation. I'm not even on the right path when it comes emotionally. I know I'm on the right path when it comes to mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically because I'm constantly putting in the work to be on the right path. Whereas other people aren't doing anything, aren't doing any work to be putting on the right path, are doing quite the opposite, and that's easy to see in the world that we live in. So having that spiritual perspective, you'll have that spiritual perspective if you are on that right path when it comes to spiritually. If you're on the right path when it comes to emotionally, physically, and mentally, you will be a stronger spirit mentally. You'll be a stronger spirit physically. You'll be a stronger spirit emotionally. You'll be a stronger spirit when it comes to spiritually. And that's just all about being on the right path. So ask yourself, are you on the right path?